Welcome to the Market Mystics Podcast. I'm Joshua.
I'm Kim. Let's dive in.
Welcome. Kim and I were just staring at each other trying to figure out who was going to talk first. We've gotten really good at not talking over each other, but sometimes we do that to the extreme to where we just don't talk at all.
We're ever so polite.
Welcome to the Midwest.
Yeah. Welp.
What are we going to talk about today?
Okay, so this past week, we had one of our listeners join our Discord server, which is always in the show notes. And we actually really love it when people go in there because then we get to interact with you guys. And that is fun. So Renata, and I hope I'm saying your name right. That's how I would say it. She hopped on and immediately started interacting. And we had a pretty good conversation just in messages going back and forth. But she brought up a question that she would like for us to expound on. And I said, we would love to do an episode on this. So I've just scrolled past it. Let me see. Okay. So her question is, what is Ascension and how do we do that? And I was like, awesome. Let's talk about this.
It's a great question. And I feel like it's, I don't know that we've talked about it a lot on the podcast, but it's definitely an area that we have some experience in, or, at least something we could bring to some of our opinions on it, I guess.
Sure.
I guess my first question for you would be like, how would you describe or define that ascension?
I would describe Ascension as the process and the experience of taking your seat in heaven. I believe it's in Ephesians 4. It talks about we're all seated in heavenly places. It doesn't say we will be, it says we are. And I think Ascension is the embracing of that and experiencing things from that place. What would you say?
Yeah, probably something similar. I would say it's a bringing your awareness to where Jesus says you are seated, and interaction in that realm. So some people would, like, depending on what stream you come from, you might call it like Yesod, you might just call it the third heaven, you might call it just like the heavens, but it's you might call it a different dimension. I don't know what you might call it. There's lots of names for it, and there's different places. Like when you ascend, it doesn't necessarily just mean one thing. We often use it as like a broad term to describe just using your God-given imagination to experience a different dimension. But there's a lot of terms, a lot of different things that it might mean.
True. I tend to use the language engaging. There is a phrase called engaging heaven. And I think that's what it is. But honestly, when I say engaging, it means that I'm taking my awareness and I'm engaging in that place. So it might be with the Father. It might be with Yeshua. It might be with angels who are there. It might be with other beings. It might be to get help here. It might be to have a conversation. It might be to be taught something. It might be to rest. It could be so many different things. But but that tends to be the language I use. And so if you've listened to any of our past episodes and you hear us talking about engaging or something like that, that's kind of what it means. It is, I would say it is my most recent way of praying, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And a different name for it because it feels so different. And I say most recent, it's been, I don't know, more than 10 years. But really, it's more about experiencing and engaging with whomever you're talking to or whatever you're interacting with, as opposed to just saying some things and hoping it gets received.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think one of the easiest ways to start that process is just to ask Jesus to show you something and trust that what he shows you is real. And you can build from that, you can grow from that. But I think just like the very simplest, and not even trying to assign a lot of meaning to it, but just like you described it as like a way of prayer. And like just starting that conversation, I think is a great way to do that. I was looking for a video that I was going to post in our description, but there's a guy named Christopher Carter who is no longer with us in this dimension, but he had one of the simplest exercises that I've ever seen to get people to start engaging heaven. And it would just start with like closing your eyes and asking, where is Jesus in this room? And then like, what is Jesus wearing? Is Jesus close to you? Is he far away from you? Does he want to come close to you? Does he want you to come close to him? Like just asking simple questions and starting to exercise that muscle. And he also had a really great teaching on using your imagination, and how before the scientific revolution, imagination had two different words that were used for it instead of imagination. And one of them meant like flights of fancy, and one of them meant something along the lines of like divine thought. And after the scientific revolution, we took those two terms and we just called them imagination. And so it has hindered people's ability to access that realm, because we also know like the other things we imagine, which maybe aren't divinely inspired. And so it creates a barrier to entry because we've redefined terms. But I can't find that like clip. He had like a 10-minute clip where he just walked you through that, and I can't find that clip. Otherwise I would post it, but maybe one of our listeners knows where it is.
True.
But just something simple like that is, I think it's one of the best ways to start that journey. Like start it with just like being like a child and saying, hey, Jesus, where are you at? What do you want to do? And don't assign a lot of meaning to it. Allow it to be fun. And eventually, as that grows, like there will be more and more you can learn from that or do with that. But I think the best way to start is just in a like playful, childlike way. And then, because sometimes you just gotta take a leap of faith to open the door.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think I had ever heard that methodology from Christopher Carter, but the way that I learned was inspired through Ian Clayton's teachings. And the first time I ever ascended, which I mean, the word just means to go up, right?
Yeah.
The first time I ever did through that kind of inspired teaching, it wasn't exactly verbatim what he did or what he taught, but it was essentially focusing on imagining building a floor brick by brick that is solid and that you can stand on. And then imagine that that floor is the floor of an elevator, and continue to concentrate on how steady and sturdy that floor is. And if it starts getting weak, build it again, until it brings you up to, so the elevator is going up to the veil that was torn when Jesus was crucified on the cross. And when you get to the veil, ask Yeshua to reach his hand out through the veil and bring you into the heavens. And it may be a super short process and it may take some time. And I think both are okay, but it's really bringing your consciousness, your awareness. It's acclimating your body to experiencing these things too. It's kind of all the things, but getting them into this position to be okay with doing that. And then once he brings you in, just asking him if there's something he wants to show you, or if there's something he wants to tell you, or if there's something he wants to do. And allowing it to just be what it is. But the more you do that, the more you practice at it, the easier it will become. And for me, like, I can just focus there now. But sometimes there's a struggle to focus there. So I can still go to the veil and ask Jesus to take my hand and bring me through. You know what I mean? Like, then it becomes this, what's the word that you use? Is a modality?
Yeah, it's a great word.
Okay. It becomes this modality that you can utilize. It's a helpful tool to help you get there. But once you're there and it becomes way more familiar and it is like your home, then it doesn't take so much formality to go in, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it has to take formality. That's not what I'm saying. Just sometimes getting even to the entrance of that, it seems like so far away.
Well, I think for me, it's like you're building a neural pathway. And if you've never utilized that pathway before, it might take a minute to establish that pathway. But once that pathway is established, like, it's a little bit easier. Like, it's just like when you're learning a new thing, you're learning a new skill, you're creating a new habit. Like, anytime you're doing something like that, it may take a little bit to really develop that. But once it's developed, it's easier to access that. It's easier to do that. So I think, modality is a good word. There's multiple modalities. There's multiple ways of accessing the same place. There's different breathwork techniques you can use. There's different types of meditation. There's a handful of modalities to kind of do the same thing.
Yeah. I would say this though. I would be very adamant about having Yeshua guide you into all of these things.
Yeah.
The last thing you want to do is be guided by some other being that wants to step in place and take you some places outside of this realm.
Yeah. I think that's an incredible warning, especially because
truly, this is for
the Bible
the
talks
safety
about
of all involved, but he's the one who's going to be able to guide you. He says he's the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through him. So, and he is set up to be your counselor, your guide, your best friend, your older brother, the one who's going to show you the way. So I would just let him show you the way.
Yeah. On the recording, it probably is going to sound like I stepped on you because on my screen you stopped talking, but then it just glitched. No, I totally agree with that. I think it's a really important warning. The other thing I would say is like, when you're just starting and you're being childlike and you're asking Jesus to show you something or to tell you something, like, be a little bit childlike. But as you start to engage that, I would encourage people to use a healthy dose of skepticism, because I think as you develop things, there is a like the verse that's like, to whom much is given, much is expected, or much is required. Like as you start to step into maturity, I think there is a little bit more, you're open to a little bit more. And one of the things I was going to bring up is like there's verses in the Bible that talk about entities disguising themselves of beings of light to deceive. And so it's like, you were talking about doing this through Jesus. And I think that's a very important thing. You will find examples of people who do this without Jesus, and they have experiences and they have conversations with entities and they get knowledge and revelation. But it takes them a different direction, and that might not be the direction you want to go.
I'd agree. I feel like I'm going off on a tangent for just 1 second. And I don't remember the name of it. There's some certain, I would say drug, it's not a drug, some sort of substance that you can take that will give you a similar experience. What is it?
DMT?
DMT. I knew it was some letters. I wanted to say MDMA, but I was like, I know that's not that one.
It's like dimethyltryptaline or something along those lines.
Okay, well, that one. And a lot of people will take that to have these spiritual experiences. But the thing about that is, and Josh, I really hope you'll argue with me about this. I tend to think that is a produced experience that you could have on your own, with a sober mind, and you can make sure that Jesus is leading you. I think when you have a substance lead you into that, you could potentially be opened up to a lot of things that you don't actually want to be opened up to. I know oftentimes when people do it, they suggest having someone there to guide you through it. So if there's other stuff that comes up, but what if you cut out all of if the other stuff comes up?
Yeah.
And you only do it with Jesus.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do. So DMT is naturally produced in the brain, generally in someone's life 2 different times, when they're born and when they die.
Interesting.
And it is often attributed to like near-death experiences that people have, as being like what allowed their brain to see Jesus when they were dying, or to see whatever they see. Like that's it's often attributed to that. And I do think like there's people who do it in groups and have the same experience, which to me tells you that they are actually experiencing something very real from a different dimension or different realm, whatever you want to call it. So I do think it's a very real thing. However, this is where I think, like I agree with what you were saying about it, but like, when you take a substance like that outside of producing it through yourself, you're taking your will maybe out of the experience. Like you called it, like your sober mindedness. And you're sort of just a passenger along for the ride. And when you ask Jesus to take you into the heavens without using something like that, you still have...
You're an active participant.
You're an active participant. Your will is still engaged in the experience. And you can say yes and no to those things. And that's a very different thing to experience.
It is. Yeah.
And so although I do think the experiences that people have taking substances like that are valid, they're real experiences, I think it's very unwise to go that route, just because
I think it's risky. Yeah.
The doors that it opens. And it's, there is an amount of risk or faith or whatever you want to call it involved in just asking Jesus to show you things. But it's a very different level of risk than taking a substance and trusting that the ride is going to be beneficial for you.
Yeah. Super interesting. Okay. Well, I'm glad you had input on that too. So that's a thing. Obviously, we're not recommending that.
Yeah,
I mean, if that wasn't clear in what we said, not a recommendation. But I think that when you go through a relationship, it can serve to really, really strengthen that relationship. And we've talked about this multiple times. There are so many things you can learn there. I've had conversations at length with the Lord about who am I? Why was I made? How did you equip me to operate? Why are these my strengths? How is this supposed to work? You can get a calling, you can get a purpose, you can get a mandate, you can get all of these things. But also, you can just hang out with Yeshua and you can just hang out with the Father. I was always so encouraged. This was before engaging or Ascension for me, by Isaiah and his throne room experience. Like, what a trip, right? So he enters the throne room and it's filled with the glory, and the Father's train is super long, and there are these angels saying, "Holy, holy, holy," all of these things. Like, it is a very vivid picture of what he experienced there. And when I first read that, I thought, wow, what an experience. How does a person do such a thing? Except now, those are very, very much experiences that you can have, and more, when you kind of go through this channel of like, I'm going with Yeshua, and can you show me this? Can you bring me to the Father? I have sat at his feet and wept. I have sat on his lap and wept, I have also danced before the throne and praised him from there. And I'm just telling you, there's such full experience that can happen there. And it may be completely different than what anyone else experiences. But I will also say, I think, you need to know that you can trust it if you're being led by Yeshua.
Yeah. Yeah. There is, I would say it is a methodology to increase your level of relationship. Like and I think that's probably how you should look at it, like as a way to increase relationship rather than a way to get anything. There might be things that come from it, but ultimately I would say the goal of it is just to bring you into closer relationship with the Father. And like if that's what comes from it, and there's no there's no mind-blowing revelation that comes from it, like that's totally fine. That's not the goal. Like the goal is just simply the relationship. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. So I hope this helps. I really hope this helps. And I would encourage you that if you are stepping into Ascension or engaging or encounters or whatever, I would keep an open mind. Make sure you're being led by who you need to be led by, and keep an open mind to what he might show you or tell you. Obviously, it's fine to check everything. But this is one of those things that can really increase the trust that you have in the Lord.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that 100-fold. I don't know about you, Josh. You think so?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what number I would assign to it, but absolutely has been an extremely important aspect of my relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope this helps, Renata. Please let us know. And anyone else who might be listening, I hope this maybe even demystifies it a bit.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be just for the few, that only a few people get to have like this intimate relationship. I think it can be for anyone who seeks it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
Good stuff. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Market Mystics. If you are hungry for more, don't miss out on our exclusive bonus content available only to YouTube members. Demystify the world of cryptocurrency in the cryptosphere, and explore everything from outrageous conspiracies to curious current events and out there spiritual musings. Nothing is off limits in Let's Get Weird. Become a channel member on YouTube to unlock these extra episodes. See you in the bonus episodes.